Okay, shall we start? Yeah.
开始吧。
Okay. Hi everyone. Happy New Year of the Dragon. 新年快乐，龙年大吉。My name is Xuan Wang. I'm a senior lecturer in Chinese Studies at Cardiff University and the chair of the British Chinese Language Teaching Society. I'm delighted to welcome you all to this inaugural lecture of our BCLTS online guest lecture series. For those of you who might not be familiar with BCLTS, we are a non-profit academic organization dedicated to the promotion of teaching and research of Chinese language in higher education in the UK and Ireland. We have about 100 members, including individual members and institutional members from more than 50 different higher education institutions. We're also affiliated to the British Association for Chinese Studies, as well as the European Association of Chinese Teaching and the International Society of Chinese Language Teaching. In recent years, BCLTS is playing an increasingly active and important role in the field of Chinese language teaching and society. For example, during the COVID, we were awarded 40,000 RMB by the International Society of Chinese Language Teaching for a year-long project on creativity and language teaching in view of the pandemic crisis. Last year in 2023, we co-organized the 4th International Symposium of the European Association of Chinese Teaching in the University of Southampton, followed by a very successful large-scale annual international conference in the University of Edinburgh. This year, we are very much looking forward to our 20th international conference to take place on the 4th to the 6th of July in Newcastle University. Our lineup of keynote speakers is very impressive. I won't name them all here for the sake of time, but just to mention that they are all in the ranking of people such as Professor Zhu Hua from the UCL Institute of Education. So for more information about our conference in Newcastle and how to participate, please visit our website, www.bclts.org.uk. And for those of you who might be interested in our research output, we have a conference proceeding series called Applied Chinese Linguistics, published with Sinolingua in London. Since 2020, this conference series takes the form of an ebook, which is completely open access and downloadable from our website. The online guest lecture series is a new initiative of BCLTS this year. It is an absolute privilege for us to present Professor Cecilia Chan from the City University of Hong Kong to mark the launch of the series. I'm also very grateful to Dr. Li Jingshi, who has kindly organized this session on behalf of BCLTS in her capacity as the deputy chair, as well as the language coordinator of Chinese at the London School of Economics and Political Science. I hope together we will make this series a successful addition to the work we do and a vibrant platform to disseminate and showcase good research in our field. So please join me in welcoming Professor Cecilia Chan.
Thank you very much, Wang Xuan. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this event. I'm Li Jingshi. I work in London School of Economics. I'm the assistant language coordinator in the Mandarin section, and I'm the deputy chair for the BCLTS. All right, so it is my greatest honor to present Dr. Yue Hong Cecilia Chen. She's an associate professor at the City University of Hong Kong. Her research embraces L2 Chinese and L2 English acquisition, applied linguistics, and language disorders. Her publications appeared in prestigious international journals such as Second Language Research, Language, Culture and Curriculum, Lingua, and the Journal of Chinese Writing System. Let's welcome Cecilia.
Thank you very much for Dr. Shi's kind introduction, and also I would like to express my appreciation to British Chinese Language Teaching Society to give me an opportunity to share my research with all of you. So first of all, Happy Chinese New Year to all of you. So let me show you the BBT, and the topic of my presentation is alphabetic Japanese and Korean learners' reliance on phonetic and semantic radicals in Chinese character processing. So I'm sure that most of the Chinese teachers will find that teaching Chinese character to foreigners is very challenging. In the literature, so there are quite a lot of studies on L2 English word processing, and it was found that a learner's native language affects their second language word processing. But in contrast, we found less attention has been paid to Chinese character or Chinese word processing by L2 learners from different native language backgrounds, such as Japanese, Korean, and alphabetic languages. So our studies intend to fill these gaps, and we investigated whether and how L2 Chinese learners L1 orthographies affect their Chinese character processing, and we focused on Japanese, Korean, and alphabetic learners. So we hope that the findings of these studies will help us better understand the challenges and strengths of L2 Chinese learners from different L2 in Chinese character learning, and also give us some insights teaching characters to learners from different language backgrounds. So I will give a brief introduction to the Chinese writing system, and also the writing system of Japanese, Korean, and also alphabetic languages. So all of you know, so Chinese character belongs to a meaning-based writing system, and the graphing is connected with meaning. So we base on the more recent literature, Cook and Basati, 2005, and then make this categorization briefly. And about 90% of Chinese characters are phonograms, consisting of the sublexical radicals, semantic, and also the phonetic radicals, providing semantic information and phonetic information respectively. This is a table to show the writing systems of Japanese, Korean, and alphabetic languages. We base on Coder 1996 and also Cook and Basati 2005's categorization. So for Japanese, we have the Japanese experts here. So so we know that kanji, right, is used in Japanese, so it is meaning-based, and Japanese also use kana, and it is sound-based. So it based on Coda categorization, the orthographic distance between Japanese and Chinese is close compared with Korean. So the orthographic distance between Korean and Chinese writing system is moderate. Since Koreans rarely use the meaning-based kanji, and mainly use Hangul, the sound-based For alphabetic languages like English, Spanish, French, so the orthographic distance between these alphabetic languages and Chinese writing system is far, since it is sound-based and there is no symbols to indicate the meanings. I briefly review the studies related to Chinese character processing by native Chinese speakers and also to Chinese learners. So the peer studies on native speakers relatively, is much more than the research on L2 learners. So those studies adopted semantic categorization, homophone judgment, lexical decisions, and picture pseudo character matching tasks to investigate Chinese speakers' radical reliance on character processing. And in general, it was found Chinese speakers considered semantic radicals that indicate meaning are more representative of a Chinese character, and they relied on semantic and phonetic information in character processing. So based on the research using different research methods. So for L2 learners processing Chinese character, I just give a brief review using the same experimental task, that is the picture pseudo character matching task. Those tasks you try to find out by learners from different language backgrounds, their reliance or sensitivity to semantic and phonetic radicals in Chinese processing. So these studies also focus on learners using alphabetic writing system for their L1, also Japanese speaker and Korean speakers. So I summarized the results of three major studies. So you can find the results are very mixed. That's why we can say that the effect of the L1 the L2 learners L1 writing system on the Chinese character processings, these issues remains controversial and deserves more in-depth investigation. So like for the first one, Chan et al., the research team are using 21 alphabetic learners, but the backgrounds, the proficiency levels varied from elementary to very advanced, and some learners learned Chinese for a few months, some maybe more than 5 years. So it was found alphabetic learners equally used semantic and phonetic radicals. So another study is also very representative. These studies used real objects in the picture. So for the pseudo picture character matching task, these tasks required the participants to watch a picture. So there is an object in the picture, and then they choose a character is best or least match with the object in the picture. So interestingly, this study also used the real objects as the objects that exist in the real world. So it's different from the previous study. And it also used different methods. That is it could be no audio description to let the learners know the descriptions or what is that object in the picture is about. So the study show if there was no clue, that is the term they use. That means there was no audio descriptions to provide to the learners. That means they just see the pseudo characters. Those characters look like characters, but actually they are not real characters. And They look at the picture and then they try to figure out which character provided to them best match with the object. So English learner relied more on semantic radicals. The Japanese and Korean equally use semantic and phonetic radicals. The more recent one, 2020, Williams Ichima, his study covered elementary, pre-intermediate, and intermediate learners, that their proficiency level was self-evaluated by the learners. So, and also in each subgroup, there could be less than 10 participants. And the results showed that alphabetic learners, those are the pre-intermediate or they achieve pre-intermediate or above Chinese proficiency. They relied more on semantic radicals. But for Japanese speakers, they rely more on semantic radicals when their proficiency was at the elementary level. That when their proficiency level reached the intermediate level, they relied more on phonetic levels. But as I mentioned, the proficiency level was self-evaluated, not based on the standardized test or the proficiency test available. For Korean learner, they consistently relied on phonetic radicals regardless of their Chinese proficiency. So you can see based on the research findings of these three major studies using the same experimental task for the same with the task we use as study, so you can see the mixed results. So let me move to our study. So the research questions of the studies is to find out whether L2 learners, particularly we focus on alphabetic, Japanese, and Korean learners, whether they are sensitive to radicals, the orthographic, phonetic, and semantic information in the Chinese character processing. And we will also want to find out whether there is any difference between alphabetic Japanese and Koreans' reliance on semantic and phonetic radicals in Chinese character processing. So if yes, what is the difference and why there is a difference, or why there are differences? So in other words, we want to find out the L1 writing system affects the Chinese character processing. So we, for the research methods, we briefly describe our participants and also give you the task items used for picture pseudo character matching test. We recruited the students, the university student mainly, from mainland China or from overseas. So we send a poster to the teachers or institutions so we have connection with, and then we tried to recruit the students through this way, but they try to get in touch with us by WeChat or by some social media, and then we have selected the students who have achieved at least intermediate levels in Chinese. So they need to fill in a questionnaire. They indicate they had a pass of HSK level 4 test, and they were given the closed reading tag. So this is a test. Is a closed test with a 30 blanks in passages and designed by a research team from Beijing. And these tests was widely used for measuring foreigners' Chinese proficiency. So that means the proficiency levels of the participants was not self-evaluated. So we have recruited the learners from alphabetic language backgrounds. We'll have 69 participants for this group. For Japanese speaker 41 and 66 Korean speakers. So we conduct a one-way over to see whether there was any differences amongst the proficiency of these three groups of learners. So we didn't find any significant difference. That means the three learners groups, they had comparable proficiency level. So if there was any differences in the performance in that experiment, should not be due to the differing proficiency in Chinese. I would like to add, we also have the Chinese native speakers as a control group, but in this presentation, I won't include the results of the Chinese native speaker, but I will cover the main findings in our discussion. Okay, so as I mentioned, we adopted the picture pseudo-character matching task. So this is the screen that is shown on the computer because students use the Gorilla system and they complete the task. So these methods actually adapted from the two studies from 2016, Williams and Schimmer. I just review the results of these two studies. So let me show you the details of the experiment using a sample. So the students, the participants were presented with a picture. So this is a tree, and we provide them with the order description as well. I just mentioned like a previous study, they didn't provide the order description, they just look at the picture. So the participant listen to the order description, and then at the same time they can see the object in this picture. So they can we use English. So in previous study they may use Chinese. So the English version is this is a tree called Qi. So we don't have a tree called Qi in our world. And we also changed the order of this description. So it may start with this is called Qi. It is a tree. That means we have two versions. So the first version, we describe what is the object and then give the pronunciation. And the second one is we provide the pronunciation of this object and then let the student know what is this object about. So half of the participants will listen to the first version of order description, another half and the second one, because we don't want the order of the description will affect their selection of the character that matched with this object. So like if they listen to the first one, they may have a very clear memory of the pronunciation, so they may choose the character with the phonetic radical that match with the pronunciation. Or the second version, they may pay attention to the meaning or the what is the object about. Is a tree, so the tree we use the radical mu, so they may have the preference affected by the order. That's why we carefully provide two versions to two different subgroups. So the participant need to give a score to each of the 5 pseudo characters. In the peer study, they also used the real character, so that's why some students feel uncomfortable to choose the pseudo character. But we consistently use pseudo character. It looks like Chinese character. So they give 1 score to the character they found least matched with the objects if they can see, and least match with the audio description. And they give 5 scores to the character they found is the most right, matching one. So the 5 pseudo characters were randomized, of course, the 16 test item. So participants were instructed not to give the same score, right, to more than one character. So that they need to, in other words, they need to rank, right, the suitability of the 5 pseudo character which matched with the picture. So 1 score, the least matching, 5 scores, the most matching one. So let me show you how we code the 5 pseudo characters in terms of the relatedness of the semantic radical and phonetic radicals, and also the positions of the radical in the pseudo character. For example, we just can see these task item. So you can see this one with mu as the semantic radical. So it matched with the descriptions of this picture because it is a tree. So the semantic radical, it indicates the meanings of wood or tree. And we use as, that means semantic related, radical. This is a plus. The phonetic radical is not the same as the pronunciation of this object, because the pronunciation of this object is qi, but the phonetic radical is zhong. So we give a minus to p. That means is the phonetic radical is unrelated. It's not matched. In other words, not matched with the other descriptions of this object. So you can see, the first two one, with the first one, use the semantic radical that is related to the tree, but the pronunciation is zhong, so not matched with the pronunciation object. So the second one, the phonetic radical is qi. That's why it's phonetically this is related to the object. But semantically, you can find the radical is zhi, is not mu. So that's why the coding is S minor. Is semantic radical is unrelated to the object. So for these two pseudo characters, we can see the phonetic radical is at the left of a character. This is the conventional positions of a semantic radical in a pseudo character, and the phonetic radical at the right. But the third and the fourth one, you can see these two pseudo characters with the unconventional positions of the radicals. Since the phonetic radicals at the left instead of the right? But the third one, the semantic radical is related to the description. And for the fourth one, the semantic radical is not related to the object. So the last one is the control one. You can see both the semantic radical and the phonetic radicals are not related to the auto description and to the objects in the picture. So this is semantic unrelated. That's a coding S minus and P minus. So we don't include P minus and S minus because when the participants need to rank 6 pseudo characters, they found that is too demanding. So that's why we only include the control item, with the radicals in the conventional position. Okay, so we also carefully selected the semantic and phonetic radicals. So those radicals can be used as a single word or as as a component within the compound characters. So all these target semantic phonetic radical used in our task items belongs to levels 1 to 3 in terms of difficulty level of the new Chinese proficiency grading standards for international Chinese language education. And we can claim that since our participant already passed the HSK 3 or HSK 4, they should be familiar with the semantic radicals like mu or the phonetic radical used for the task item. So we also paid attention to the frequency as well. So we try to make the frequency of the selected semantic and phonetic radicals was balanced based on the BCC corpus. So you can see from here the semantic radical and phonetic radical used in a pseudo counter in our task of no significant difference. We use the results of manually do tests. And why this is important? Because we say even a participant, they select a semantic radical more often than related to the object. It could be they're more familiar with the semantic radical, they're less familiar with the phonetic radicals. So that's why we try to make sure the difficult level and frequency of the semantic radicals and phonetic radicals used in our experiments are comparable. So as I just mentioned, our participants used the Guerrilla experimental builder platform to complete the study and the experiments. They were given instruction to do 3 practice trials to make sure they're familiar with the procedure, and they need to complete 16 formal task trials. So these platforms helped us to record their responses. That means the ranking of the 5 encounters in each task item. On average, they spent about 20 minutes to complete the whole task. We conducted a 2-way mix ANOVA to analyze the data. So the dependent variable is the participant score on the pseudo counter. The independent variables are the learner's native language. It is the between subject variables and also the symbol types. The symbol types are the pseudo character types. There are 5 types that I just described. Actually, the results show that the main effect of the pseudo character types, right? And we also conduct 3 one-way ANOVA and Buffon-Norrie adjusted pair-by t-tests to examine the participants' radical reliance pattern for each native language background, and also the one-way ANOVA and post-hoc t-test to examine the differences between the 3 Chinese learners group for each pursued character type. So let's just take a look of the results. So these is the figure for the overall results of all the learners, and then we will focus on each individual learners group later. So this is the coding I just described. So S plus means the character used the semantic related radical, and S minor is semantic unrelated, P is phonetic radical related, but P minus is phonetic radical unrelated. So if we compare the type 1, mean score, this is the semantic related, radical related, phonetic radical unrelated with the third type. So the difference is the positions of each radical, right, in a character. But the relatedness of the radicals in terms of this semantic and phonetic radicals are the same. So you can see the score for this type was higher than the third one. That, in other words, right, that learners in general, they were sensitive to the structure of a character. The structure of character is the semantic radical at the left and the phonetic radical at the right. So we carefully look into whether the positions of the radicals will have any influence on the reliance of the different types of radicals. And similarly, if we look at the second and the fourth type, so the second and fourth type both used the phonetic related radical, but the semantic radical unrelated. If the radicals were in the conventional positions, you can find the score higher. And the lowest score is the last type. Both the semantic radical and phonetic radicals are unrelated. In other words, is on the one hand that all learners they relied on the positions of the radicals in a character to make a judgment, right? To rank the pseudo characters for each objects in the task, and on the other hand, they were also sensitive, right, to the radicals in the character. That means they have knowledge about the radicals used in the character, right, in an experiment. If you try to find out the pattern for each learner group, the patterns of the reliance on the semantic or phonetic radicals, right, when they make the judgment, right, in the task. So you can see in roughly, where I will go back to each individual group later. So you can see the alphabetic learners rank this type, right? They rank this type of the pseudo character, right, with the higher score. So this type is semantic radical unrelated, but phonetic radical related. But these pseudo character types with the radicals in conventional position. In contrast, if we look at the Japanese learners, so we found that they rank the characters with the semantic radicals in the conventional positions with the highest score. And then the phonetic radicals is unrelated. They didn't really care about this. So they just focus more on the semantic radical. If we just roughly to look at which type of pseudo character received the highest score. Interestingly, if you look at the Korean speaker, so if the characters was radicals in conventional positions, so these two charts, with these two bars with this show that's quite close to each other. That's no seems no significant difference. They don't really have significant preference, right, for a pseudo character with the semantic radical or phonetic radical related to the character. But all of them, right, they rank the radicals with the semantic unrelated and phonetic unrelated radicals with lower score. So I just gave an overview, right, of the character type. We see the highest score given by each learner group. So now we look at the figures for each learner groups. So we can see the one with the semantic radical with the high, what are the related, and if we contrast with the one unrelated, so we will find that, right, there's significant difference. So that means when the radicals in the conventional positions, right, so alphabetic learners give higher score to the character types with the phonetic radical is related. So that's why the second type, right, you can see the bar is significantly higher than the first one. This is the alphabetic learner's performance. But when the radicals were in unconventional positions, that means the phonetic radical on the left and semantic radical on the right, we can see these significant difference. But for the last type is the semantic, both semantic and phonetic radicals are unrelated. The score of this type was significantly lower than all of these four types. For Japanese learner, the pattern was different from the alphabetic learners because you can see that I mentioned the type of pseudo-character received the highest score is the characters of the semantic related radicals. So these type, right, is the scores were much higher than the second type, that is the semantic radical was unrelated, but the first two types are of the radicals in conventional positions. But when the characters are of the two radicals in unconventional position is the third and fourth type, so we can see the significant difference between the lines on the semantic or, right, the phonetic radicals. Again, similar to alphabetic learners. So we can find these type, right, the last type received the lower score, but interestingly, the score were comparable with the fourth type. So we predict this one, right, the last one, it should be that received the lower score, right? But to a certain extent, is similar to the performance of the alphabetic learners. Is also received the low score, but the score we can find were quite close to the fourth type. That means that Japanese speakers, they are very concerned. They were very aware of the structure of the character, the graphic form of the character. So even though these one, like the last one, of the radicals are both unrelated, but since these two radicals are in the conventional position, so they rank it not like the lowest, they rank it similarly with the judgment reliance on the conventional positions. So since this is not, right, conventional, right, even though the phonetic, right, radicals is related, they didn't rank it high. They just considered these two were, right, comparatively not different. Okay, for the Korean learners, so we can find the first two types of radicals and the third and fourth type the scores are very close. There was no significant difference, right, between the first and the second type, right? That means even the radicals are in conventional, right, position. So whether it's semantically related or phonetic radical related, then they don't really have any preference. So the same, right, patterns we can find in unconventional positions of the radicals. So they don't really have any preference or reliance on semantic related radicals or phonetic related radicals. But they also respond similarly with the alphabetic learners. So the last type with the radicals unrelated, you see the lower scores. Okay, so the last part of the results, so we try to see for each type of pseudo character, and then to find out the learner, the three groups of learners, right, judgments, right, and the scoring. So you can see, right, for the red one is semantic and phonetic radicals are both unrelated. But the Japanese speaker, right, the Japanese they rank this type, right, quite low because 2, right, the score for 2 is not really good matched with the picture. But relatively and statistically, right, it is significantly higher than the alphabetic and Korean learners. And if you look at the alphabetic learners, so for the second type is the blue line. So the phonetic radicals are related, so they rank it highest, right, among the 3 learners group. But for the gray color line, so the Japanese learners rank the pseudo character with the semantic radical related, but phonetic radical unrelated, right, rank it right highest, right, among the 3 learners group exception. So we can see significant difference, right, among the mean score of the alphabetic, Japanese, and Korean learners on 3 main types of pseudo character I just described. The first type is the semantic radical related, phonetic radical unrelated, but the radicals are in a conventional position, and or the phonetic radical related, semantic radical unrelated, and then the radicals were in unconventional positions. And the last type is both the semantic and phonetic radicals are unrelated. We also conducted post-hoc tests, and it indicates that alphabetic learners gave significantly lower score, right, on the first type. The lower score is semantic radical related, right, but phonetic radical unrelated. They give higher score among the 3 learners group is to give the highest score to the pseudo type with the phonetic radical related, but in the conventional position, right, and semantic radical unrelated. As I just mentioned, the Japanese speakers gave higher score, right, for the last type, that's both semantic and phonetic radicals, right, are related. But these type are of the radicals in the conventional position. So they are more concerned about the structure, right, of the character, the positions, right, comparatively, right, than the relatedness of the semantic of the or phonetic radicals when compared with the alphabetic and Korean learners. Okay, so let's move to the discussion. So I summarized the main findings. We found that L2 Chinese learners were sensitive to the radicals of the graphic, phonetic, and semantic information in processing Chinese character as reflected in an experiment. And alphabetic learners relied more on phonetic radicals when radicals were in conventional position, and they exhibited equal semantic and phonetic reliance when radicals were in unconventional positions. In contrast, Japanese learners relied more on semantic radicals, regardless of the radicals' positions, and then Korean learners relied equally on semantic phonetic radicals, regardless of the radicals' positions. So we can find some similarities of the results. So our results of the alphabetic learners' judgment of the pseudo character matching with the objects as the same with the Williams dictionary. So they relied more on phonetic variables or the phonetic information in Chinese character processing than semantic. And Korean learners, their reliance on the semantic radical phonetics radicals are quite similar. So the study of the result of studies are in line of those in 2016. But for Japanese learners, it's quite different. So we found, right, Japanese learners relied more on semantic radicals. We didn't use any real objects and real characters in our experiment. We also concerned about the conventional positions. But for the other study, so either Williams or Cheever, right, in general, regardless of the proficiency, they found phonetic radicals were more preferred by the Japanese learner, right? And tones we found quite similar. They have the equal reliance. So at the beginning, right, in the literature review, we try to differentiate the writing systems of the Japanese, Korean, and alphabetic languages in terms of their orthographic distance, right, with the L2 Chinese character. So we can find to a certain extent the effect of the learner's L1 orthographies on their reliance on or sensitivity to semantic or phonetic radicals in processing Chinese character. So alphabetic learners, so they're sensitive, we say, they're sensitive to the grapheme pronunciation connection when processing words in the first language writing system. That's why they are more susceptible to phonetic information than processing Chinese character, and they rely more on phonetic. And the orthographic distance between the alphabetic language and L2 Chinese is far, right? And for the Japanese learners, right, the writing system use both meaning-based, but meaning-based is the dominant writing script, right? They use very frequently, so they're sensitive to both grapheme meaning and grapheme pronunciation connection. They can quickly acquire Chinese character knowledge and process Chinese character as native speaker. As I mentioned, we also include control group in our study, and actually they relied on semantic radicals. So Japanese speakers are quite similarly with the native speaker. So they are also more sensitive to the conventional positional semantic and phonetic radicals. That means the orthographic information is quite important when they process Chinese character. So lastly, the Korean learners, they rely on grapheme meaning and grapheme pronunciation connections. So the distance between the orthographic distance between Korean writing system and Chinese writing system is moderate. So since Koreans primarily use Hangul with relative rare use of a Hanja, so they are not as susceptible to semantic information as Japanese learner, and on the other hand, they're not as sensitive to phonetic information as alphabetic learners. So our conclusion, so we generate the processing patterns of the alphabetic Japanese and Korean learners from the results. So we can find to address the first questions, we found all the learner groups, they're sensitive to the orthographic, semantic, and phonetic information in Chinese character processing, but different language groups, since they're influenced by their first language writing system. That's why their reliance on either phonetic radicals and semantic radicals differs. So we say the closer the orthographic distance between learners L1 and Chinese, the easier it is for learners to use the orthography, phonology, and semantic mapping groups to process Chinese character. So we said that the findings of study may have implications on two perspectives: the theoretical perspective about Chinese character processing and pedagogical perspective. Yeah. So yeah. And last, I would like to acknowledge, right, Yumin Yang, right, my PhD student, and help with the data collection and data analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Cecilia's intensive and comprehensive and detailed research funding. Just because of time, because our room is booked till up to 12. Let's see whether we have a question. Okay. Whether you have any questions online. Any questions? I think. And then we probably give a minute for people to kind of think in. And if you have any questions online, you can just open the mic and ask. Oh, Zhi Laoshi, you have a question?
In fact, I totally agree with you because I have taught Chinese language in Japan for more than 20 years. So I just want. I really, because in Japan we have a common used Chinese culture for 2,500. It's the same as China, in fact, almost the same as China. So what I want to say is I couldn't agree you more.
Thank you so much.
That's all.
Yeah. Thank you. And I also found this really interesting because in learning characters are the biggest hurdle and the biggest kind of the unique feature of learning Chinese language, but could be a biggest hurdle for Chinese language learning. And then your research shows different group of learners, they learn character differently. We tend to think Japanese students and the Korean students as like East Asian students, but your study shows they are quite different actually. To a certain extent, Korean students share more similarity with alphabetical European students. So this is really fascinating. So thank you so much.
Kind arrangements.
Okay, so dear colleagues, thank you very much for joining us. Is this the first ever guest lecture delivered by Dr. Cecilia Chan? And then please, keep in touch if you're interested in our BCLTS activity, talks, and conferences. Please visit our website. And if you happen to be in the UK and would like to be one of our future guests, please feel free to contact us. And I think that is going to be the end of our first session. Happy Chinese New Year! 祝大家龙年大吉大利。OK， 王璇，你还有什么话要总结一下吗？
没有了，非常感谢那个陈老师今天给我们的这个讲座，时间有点有限，其实还是有很多东西可以讨论。不过欢迎您有机会再去 Newcastle， 我们在那里重聚，然后再听您跟我们分享关于这个汉字部分的这些实验和这个教学建议。非常感谢您，
谢谢王老师。
OK， 那我们就再见啦，拜拜。